Welcome to the 1,000 Nights and One Night. Now, when it was the 491st night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Bulukiya, continued the queen, walked for solace about the island till eventide, when he lay down to sleep. As soon as daybreak, he began to explore the place, and ceased not for 10 days, after which again made the shore, and anointed his feet, and setting out over the fourth sea, walked upon it many nights and days, till he came to a third island of fine white sand, without sign of trees or grass. He walked about it a while, but finding its only inhabitants sakers, which nested in the sand, he again anointed his feet, and trudged over the fifth sea, walking night and day, till he came to a little island, whose soil and hills were like crystals. Therein were the veins wherefrom gold is worked, and therein also were marvellous trees, whose like he had never seen in his wanderings, for their blossoms were in hues of gold. He landed and walked about for diversion till it was nightfall, when the flowers began to shine through the gloom like stars. Seeing this sight, he marvelled and said, Assuredly the flowers of this island are of those which wither under the sun and fall to the earth, where the winds smite them, and they gather under the rocks, and become the elixir which the folk collect, and thereof make gold. He slept there all that night, and at sunrise he anointed his feet, and descending to the shore, fared on over the sixth sea, nights and days, till he came to a fifth island. Here he landed, and found, after walking an hour or so, 2 mountains covered with a multitude of trees, whose fruits were as men's heads hanging by the hair, and others whose fruits were green birds hanging by the feet. Also a third kind, whose fruit were like aloes. If a drop of the juice fell on a man, it burnt like fire. And others whose fruits wept and laughed, besides many other marvels which he saw there. Then he returned to the seashore, and finding there a tall tree, sat down beneath it till supper time, when he climbed up into its branches to sleep. As he sat considering the wonderful works of Allah, behold, the waters became troubled, and there rose therefrom the daughters of the sea, each mermaid holding in her hand a jewel which shone like the morning. They came ashore, and foregathering under the trees, sat down and danced and sported and made merry, whilst Bulukiya amused himself with watching and wondering at their gambols, which were prolonged till the morning, when they returned to the sea and disappeared. Then he came down, and anointing his feet, set out on the surface of the seventh sea, over which he journeyed 2 whole months, without getting sight of highland or island or broadland or lowland or shoreland, till he came to the end thereof. And so doing, he suffered exceeding hunger, so that he was forced to snatch up fishes from the surface of the sea, and devour them raw for stress of famine. In such case he pushed on till in early forenoon he came to the 6th island, with trees a-growing and rills a-flowing, where he landed, and walked about, looking right and left, till he came to an apple tree, and put forth his hand to pluck the fruit, when lo! One cried out to him from the tree, saying, An thou draw near to this tree, and cut it of aught, I will cut thee in twain. So he looked, and saw a giant 40 cubit high, being the cubit of the people of that day, whereat he feared with so fear, and refrained from that tree. Then said he to the giant, Why dost thou forbid me to eat of this tree? Replied the other, Because thou art a son of Adam, and thy father Adam forgot the covenant of Allah, and sinned against him, and ate of the tree. Quoth Bulukiya, What thing art thou, and to whom belongeth this island with its tree, and how art thou named? Quoth the tall one, My name is Sharahaya, and trees and islands belong to King Sakir. I am one of his guards, and in charge of his dominion. Presently adding, But who art thou, and whence comest thou hither? Bulukiya told him his story from beginning to end, and Shahira said, Be of good cheer, and brought him to eat. So he ate his fill, and taking leave of the giant, set out again, and ceased not faring on over the mountains and sandy deserts for 10 days. at the end of which time he saw in the distance a dust cloud hanging like a canopy in air, and making towards it he heard a mighty clamor, cries and blows and sounds of melee. Presently he reached a great wadi, 2 months' journey long, and looking whence the shouts came, he saw a multitude of horsemen engaged in fierce fighting, and the blood running from them till it railed like a river. Their voices were thunderous, and they were armed with lance and sword and iron mace and bow and arrow, and they all fought with the utmost fury. At this sight he was sore affright, and Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 492nd night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the queen continued, When Bulukiya saw the host in fight, he felt sore affright, and was perplexed about his case. But whilst he hesitated, behold, they caught sight of him, and held their hands one from the other, and left fighting. Then a troop of them came to him, wondering at his make, and one of the horsemen said to him, What art thou, and whence camest thou hither, and whither art wending, and who showed thee the way that thou hast come to our country? Quoth he, I am of the sons of Adam, and am come out distracted for the love of Mohammed, whom Allah bless and preserve. But I have wandered from my way. Quoth the horseman, Never saw we a son of Adam till now, nor did ever come to this land. And all marveled at him and at his speech. But what are ye, O creatures? asked Bulukiya, and the rider replied, We are of the Jann. So he said, O knight, what is the cause of the fighting amongst you, and where is a abiding place, and what is the name of the valley in this land? He replied, Our abiding place is the White Country, and every year Allah Almighty commandeth us to come hither and wage war upon the unbelieving Jann. Asking Bulukiya, And where is the White Country? And the horseman answered, It is behind the mountain Kaf, and distant 75 years' journey from this place, which is termed the land of Shaddad, son of Ad, and we are here for holy war. We have no other business, when we are not doing battle, than to glorify God and hallow him. Moreover, we have a king, King Shahkar, hight, and needs must go with us to him, that he may look upon thee for his especial delight. Then they fared on, and he with them, till they came to their abiding place, where he saw a multitude of magnificent tents of green silk. None knoweth their number save Allah the Most High, and in their midst a pavilion of red satin, some 1,000 cubits in compass, with cords of blue silk and pegs of gold and silver. Bulukiya marveled at the sight, and accompanied them as they fared on, and behold, this was the royal pavilion. So they carried him into the presence of King Shahkar, whom he found seated upon a splendid throne of red gold, set with pearls and studded with gems. The kings and princes of the Jann being on his right hand, and on his left his counselors and emirs and officers of states, and multitudes of others. The king, seeing him, bade introduce him, which they did, and Bulukiya went up to him and saluted him after kissing the ground before him. The king returned his salute and said, Draw near me, O mortal, and Bulukiya went close up to him. Hereupon the king, commanding a chair to be set for him by his royal side, bade him sit down, and asked him, Who art thou? And Bulukiya answered, I am a man, and one of the children of Israel. Tell me thy story, cried King Shahkar, and acquaint me with all that hath befallen thee, and how thou camest to this my land. So Bulukiya related to him all that had occurred in his wanderings, from the beginning to the end. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 493rd night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the queen continued. When Bulukiya related to Shahkar what befell him in his wanderings, he marveled thereat. Then he bade the servants bring food, and they spread the tables, and set one 1,500 platters of red, gold, and silver and copper, and some containing 20 and some 50 boiled camels, and others some 50 head of sheep, at which Bulukiya marveled with exceeding marvel. Then they ate, and he ate with them till he was satisfied, and returned thanks to Allah Almighty, after which they cleared the tables and set on fruits, and they ate thereof, glorifying the name of God, and invoking blessings on his prophet Muhammad, whom Allah bless and preserve. When Bulukiya heard them make mention of Muhammad, he wondered and said to King Sakar, I am minded to ask thee some questions. Rejoined the king, Ask what thou wilt. And Bulukiya said, O king, what are ye, and what is your origin, and how came you to know of Muhammad, whom Allah assain and save, that ye draw near to him and love him? King Sakir answered, O Bulukiya, of very sooth Allah created the fire in 7 stages, one above the other, and each distant 1,000 years' journey from its neighbor. The first stage is named Jahannam, and appointed the same for the punishment of the transgressors of the true believers who die unrepentant. The second he named Laza, and appointed for unbelievers. The name of the third is Jahim, and is appointed for Gog and Magog. The fourth is called Sa'ir, and is appointed for the host of Iblis. The fifth is called Sakar, and is prepared for those who neglect prayer. The sixth is called Hatama, and is appointed for Jews and Christians. The seventh is named Hawiya, and is prepared for hypocrites. Such be the 7 stages. Quoth Bulukiya, Happily, Jahannam hath less torture, for that is the uppermost. Yes, quoth King Sakir, the most endurable of them all is Jahannam. Natheless, in it is 1,000 mountains of fire. In each mountain 70,000 cities of fire. In each city 70,000 castles of fire. And each castle 70,000 houses of fire. And in each house 70,000 couches of fire. And in each couch 70,000 manners of torment. As for the other hells, O Bulukiya, none knoweth the number of kinds of torment that be therein, save Allah, the Most Highest. When Bulukiya heard this, he fell down in a fainting fit, and when he came to himself, he wept and said, O king, what will be my case? Quoth Shakir, Fear not, and know that thou whoso loveth Mohammed, whom Allah bless and keep, the fire shall not burn him, for he is made free therefrom for his sake, and whoso belongeth to his faith, the fire shall fly him. As for us, the Almighty Maker created us of the fire. For the first that he made in Jahannam were 2 of his hosts, whom he called Khalit and Malit. Now Khalit was fashioned in the likeness of a lion, with a tail like a tortoise, 20 years' journey in length, and ending in a member masculine, while Malit was like a pied wolf, whose tail was furnished with a member feminine. Then Almighty Allah commanded the tails to couple and copulate, and do the deed of kind. Of them were born serpents and scorpions, whose dwelling is in the fire, that Allah made therefore with torment those whom he casteth therein. And these increased and multiplied. Then Allah commanded the tails of Khalit and Malit to couple and copulate a second time, and the tail of Malit conceived by the tail of Khalit, and bore 14 children, 7 male and 7 female, who grew up and intermarried one with the other. All were obedient to their sire, save one, who disobeyed him, and was changed into a worm, which is Iblis. The curse of Allah be upon him. Now Iblis was one of the cherubim, for he had served Allah till he was raised to the heavens and cherished by the especial favor of the Merciful One, who made him chief of the cherubim. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 494th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the queen continued, Iblis served God and became chief of cherubim. When, however, the Lord created Adam, with whom be peace, he commanded Iblis to prostrate himself to him, but he drew back. So Allah Almighty expelled him from heaven and cursed him. This Iblis had issue of his lineage are the devils. And as for the other 6 males who were his elders, they are the ancestors of the true believing Jan, and we are their descendants. Such, O Bulukiya, is our province. Bulukiya marveled at the king's words and said, O king, I pray thee bid one of thy guards bear me back to my native land. Naught of this may we do, answered Shakir, save by commandment of Allah Almighty. However, an thou desire to leave us and return home, I will mount thee on one of my mares, and cause her carry thee to the farthest frontiers of my dominions, where thou wilt meet with the troops of another king, Bulukiya, who will recognize the mare at sight, and take thee off her, and send her back to us. And this is all we can do for thee, and no more. When Bulukiya heard these words, he wept and said, Do whatso thou wilt. So King Shakir caused bring the mare, and setting Bulukiya on her back, said to him, Beware, lest thou alight from her, or strike her, or cry out in her face, for if thou do so, she will slay thee. But abide quietly, riding on her back, till she stop with thee. Then dismount, and wend thy way. Quoth Bulukiya, I hear, and I obey. He then mounted, and setting out, rode on a long while between the rows of tents, and stinted not riding till he came to the royal kitchens, where he saw the great cauldrons, each holding 50 camels, hung over the fires which blazed fiercely under them. So he stopped, and he gazed with a marvel ever increasing, till King Shakir, thinking him to be an hungered, bade bring him 2 roasted camels, and they carried them to him, and bound them behind him on the mare's crupper. Then he took leave of them, and fared on till he came to the end of King Shakir's dominions, where the mare stood still, and Bulukiya dismounted, and began to shake the dust of the journey from his raiment. And behold, there accosted him a party of men, who, recognizing the mare, carried her and Bulukiya before their king Bulukiya. So he saluted him, and the king returned his greetings, and seated him beside him in a splendid pavilion, in the midst of his troops, and champions and vassals, princes of the Jan, ranged to right and left. After which he called for food, and they ate their fill, and pronounced the Alhamdulillah. Then they set on fruits. When they had eaten thereof, King Bulukiya, whose estate was like the king of Shakir, asked his guest, Whence dost thou leave King Shakir? And Bulukiya answered, 2 days ago. Quoth Bulukiya, Dost thou know how many days' journey thou hast come in these 2 days? Quoth he, No. And the king rejoined, Thou hast come a journey of 70 months. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 495th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the queen continue. Bulukiya said to Bulukiya, In 2 days thou hast come a journey of 70 months. Moreover, when thou mountest the mare, she was affrighted at thee, knowing thee for a son of Adam, and would have thrown thee. So they bound on her back these 2 camels by way of weight to steady her. When Bulukiya heard this, he marveled, and thanked Allah Almighty for his safety. Then said the king, Tell me thy adventure, and what brought thee to this land. So he told him his story, from first to last. And the king marveled at his words, and kept Bulukiya with him 2 months. Upon this, Hasib Karim al-Din, after he had marveled at her story again, besought the serpent queen, saying, I pray thee of thy goodness and graciousness, command one of thy subjects conduct me to the surface of the earth, that I may return to my family. But she answered, O Hasib, I know that the first thing thou wilt do after seeing the face of the earth will be to greet thy family, and then repair to the Hammam bath and bathe, and the moment thou endest thine ablutions will see the last of me, for it will be the cause of my death. Quoth Hasib, I swear that I will never again enter the Hammam bath so long as I live, but when washing is incumbent on me, I will wash at home. Rejoined the queen, I would not trust thee, though thou shouldest swear to me 100 oaths, for such abstaining is not possible. And I know thee to be a son of Adam, for whom no oath is sacred. The father Adam made a covenant with all of the Most High, who kneaded the clay whereof he fashioned him 40 mornings, and made his angels prostrate themselves to him. Yet after all his promise did he forget, and his oath violate, disobeying the commandment of his Lord. When Hasib heard this, he held his peace and burst into tears. Nor did he leave weeping for the space of 10 days, at the end of which time he said to the queen, Prithee, acquaint me with the rest of Bulukiya's adventures. Accordingly she began again as follows. Know, O Hasib, that Bulukiya, after abiding 2 months with King Bulukiya, farewelled him, and fared over wastes and deserts nights and days, till he came to a high mountain which he ascended. On the summit he beheld seated a great angel, glorifying the names of God, and invoking blessings on Mohammed. Before him lay a table covered with characters, those white and those black, whereon his eyes were fixed, and his 2 wings were outspread to the full, one to the western, and the other to the eastern horizon. Bulukiya approached and saluted the angel, who returned his salam, adding, Who art thou, and whence comest thou, and whither wendest thou, and what is thy story? Accordingly, he repeated to him his history, from first to last, and the angel marveled mightily thereat, whereupon Bulukiya said to him, I pray thee, in return, acquaint me with the meaning of this table, and what is writ thereon, and what may thine occupation and thy name? Replied the angel, My name is Michael, and I am charged with the shifts of night and day, and this is my occupation till the day of doom. Bulukiya wondered at his words, and at his aspects, and the vastness of his stature, and taking leave of him, fared onwards, night and day, till he came to a vast meadow, over which he walked, observing that it was traversed by 7 streams, and abounded in trees. He was struck by its beauty, and in one corner thereof he saw a great tree, and under it 4 angels. So he drew near to them, and found the first in the likeness of a man, and the second in the likeness of a wild beast, the third in the likeness of a bird, and the fourth in the likeness of a bull, engaged in glorifying Almighty Allah, and saying, O my God, and my Master, and my Lord, I conjure thee, by thy truth, and by the degree of thy Prophet Mohammed, on whom be blessings and peace, to vouchsafe thy mercy, and grant thy forgiveness to all things created in my likeness, for thou over all things art almighty. Bulukiya marveled at what he heard, but continued his journey till he came to another mountain, and ascending it found that there was a great angel seated on the summit, glorifying God and hallowing him, and invoking blessings on Mohammed, whom Allah assain and save. And he saw that angel continually opening and shutting his hands, and bending and extending his fingers. He accosted him, and he saluted him, whereupon the angel returned his salam, and inquired who he was, and how he came thither. So Bulukiya acquainted him with his adventure, including his having lost the way, and besought him to tell him in turn who he was, and what was his function, and what mountain was that. Quoth the angel, Know, O Bulukiya, that this is the mountain Kaf, which encompassed the world, and all the countries the Creator hath made are in my grasp. When the Almighty is minded to visit any land with earthquake or famine or plenty or slaughter or prosperity, he biddeth me carry out his commands, and I carry them out without stirring from my place. For know that my hands lay hold upon the roots of the earth. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 496th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the queen continued. When the angel said, And know that my hands lay hold upon the roots of the earth, he asked, And hath Allah created other worlds than this within the mountain Kaf? The angel answered, Yes. He hath made a world white as silver, whose vastness know none save himself, and hath peopled it with angels, whose meat and drinks are his praise and hallowing and continual blessings upon his prophet Mohammed, whom Allah bless and keep. Every Thursday night they repair to this mountain and worship in congregation Allah until the morning, and they assign the future recompense of their lauds and litanies to the sinners of the faith of Mohammed, whom Allah assain and save, and to all who make the Ghul's opulation of Friday, and this is their function until the day of resurrection. Asked Bulukiya, and hath Allah created other mountains behind the mountain Kaf? Whereto he answered, Yes. Behind this mountain is a range of mountains 500 years' journey long, of snow and ice, and this is that wardeth off the heat of Jahannam from the world, which verily would else be consumed thereby. Moreover, behind the mountain Kaf are 40 worlds, each one of the bigness of this world 40 times told, some of gold, some of silver, and others of carnelian. Each of these worlds hath its own color, and Allah hath peopled them with angels, that know not Eve nor Adam, nor night nor day, and have no other business than to celebrate his praises, and hallow him, and make profession of his unity, and proclaim his omnipotence, and supplicate him on behalf of the followers of Muhammad, whom Allah bless and keep. And know that also, O Bulukiya, that the earths were made in 7 stages, one upon another, and that Allah hath created one of his angels whose stature and attributes none knoweth but himself, and who beareth the 7 stages upon his shoulders. Under this angel Almighty Allah hath created a great rock, and under the rock's bull, and under the bull a huge fish, and under the fish a mighty ocean. God once told Isa, with whom be peace, of this fish, and he said, O Lord, show me a fish that I may look upon it. So the Almighty commanded an angel to take Isa and show him the fish. Accordingly, he took him up and carried him, with whom be peace, to the sea wherein the fish dwelt, and said, Look, O Isa, upon the fish. He looked, but at first saw nothing, when suddenly the fish darted past like lightning. At this sight Isa fell down a swoon, and when he came to himself, Allah spake to him by inspiration, saying, O Isa, hast thou seen the fish, and comprehended its length and its breadth? He replied, By thy honor and glory, O Lord, I saw no fish, but there passed by me a great bull, whose length was 3 days' journey, and I know not what manner of thing this bull is. Quoth Allah, O Isa, this thou sawest, and which was 3 days in passing by thee, was but the head of the fish. And know that every day I create 40 fishes like unto this. And Isa, hearing this, marveled at the power of Allah Almighty, asking Bulukiya, What hath Allah made beneath this sea, which containeth this fish? And the angel answered, Under the sea the Lord created a vast abyss of air, under the air fire, and under the fire a mighty serpent by name of Falak. And were it not for fear of the Most Highest, this serpent would certainly swallow up all that is above it, air and fire, and the angel and his burden without sensing it. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my telling of these tales until it be morrow.